STEP initiative was launched in 2004, the Sustainable Tourism for Eradicating Poverty, which has put a focus on the poverty reduction potential of tourism for reducing poverty, which is part of the sustainability agenda. The period 2006-2009, the UN has a process of the Marrakesh process, so-called, and one of the task forces was established, led by the government of France. The Marrakesh task force on tourism started to work in 2006, and by 2009, the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, composed of a number of international agencies, governments, private sector institutions, and NGOs, has been created and is trying to has already established a list of criteria that any certification for sustainable tourism must have, and trying to become then the accreditation system for the numerous certification systems on sustainable tourism that have appeared. None of them has managed to become universal, to cover all countries and to attract the universe of companies in the field or in the country. So the need for a global accreditation system is very, very strong, in my opinion. Now, what has been the progress made? Let's have a quick look. Certainly, awareness raising among governments, companies, and consumers. Know-how developed, there is no doubt about it, and the academia, like the Center for Responsible Tourism, among others, but many others in many countries, have developed technological and managerial know-how to handle sustainable tourism. There has been a lot of research conducted for conceptualizing, preventing negative impacts, methodology for social inclusiveness, maximizing social benefits, furthering innovation, and measuring impacts of tourism, and including the sustainable variable. There has been a worldwide, I would call it a worldwide social movement in favor of sustainable tourism. In all countries you find different groups promoting sustainability in tourism, and NGOs created and campaigning for more sustainability in tourism. Some large hotel chains have, and some large tour operators have also a clear and public sustainability policy nowadays, including an annual sustainability report. Once again, some of it may be a bit of greenwashing, but a lot is real progress made by these companies. A significant number of small, specialized tour operators in major markets, especially in Europe, have a real and full commitment to sustainable tourism. We've seen the growing numbers of small operators operating fully in sustainable terms. There is a forum, Anders Reisen in Germany, for instance, and many others in the Netherlands, in Italy, in France, in Germany, in the UK, in the Scandinavian countries, and so on. CO2 compensation schemes have been created by major airlines and other tourism players, manuals published for energy efficiency, water-saving techniques, and so on. Some regional sustainable tourism networks or charters for promoting or exchanging experiences and certification, like the European Chart for Sustainable Tourism, a network in Latin America has been created, the Caribbean Action for Sustainable Tourism, and so on, the EU Eco-Label, the Destinet, the Trade in Tourism in South Africa, Walmart in New Zealand, Check in Australia, the Green Seal in the US, etc. And most big tourism fairs, as Harold was reminding us a moment ago, most big tourism fairs include seminars, stands, awards to promote sustainability. Now, the key questions are all these techniques practices, charters, certification systems, and the like being massively applied in the tourism industry? Secondly, are consumers massively demanding, preferring, and paying more for truly sustainable tourism options? And thirdly, are the economic benefits of tourism reaching massively the poor communities close to major destinations? In preparing responses to this, I must say, I consulted a number of written sources and also conducted a quick survey among the tour operators, members of the tour operator commission. And I got very interesting answers. Regretfully, the three questions I put there have a negative answer. It's not the case. Although progress has been made, but we cannot say that massively all these techniques, all these sustainable practices in tourism are being applied all over the world by all tourism companies, and consumers are having a responsible behavior towards the destinations they visit. Many destinations continue to expand and grow without regard to the environment or local communities. Sustainable tourism is generally confined to pioneer companies in pioneer countries. And no certification system, as I said before, has managed to attract large numbers of adherents, neither to be recognized universally by consumers. What are the reasons? Firstly, insufficient commitment by governments, mostly motivated by short-term results. I think it's a major drawback, a major shortcoming for rapid progress. There is a kind of obsession, I would call it, with increasing numbers of international arrivals as the indicator of success, both in national policies and international tourism statistics. What we want to show always, governments and companies too, and destinations too, we have X% growth in the number of arrivals. And countries remain there. They don't measure the real impacts of tourism. They measure the easiest one, which is growth in international arrivals, ignoring sometimes also domestic tourist movements. There is no application by tourism companies of recommended techniques and solutions due to a number of factors which we are currently studying in depth in my country, in Chile. Lack of knowledge sometimes, shortage of professional staff, lack of finance to introduce the changes that sometimes involve being more sustainable, and lack of a stimulus from demand. They don't see that the consumers are requesting more sustainable tourism options. There is no clear marketing or promotion strategy that prioritizes available sustainable tourism options. There is no inclusion of sustainability as a central element in all study curricula of tourism training institutions at university. There are, of course, a number of exceptions, but generally, if we examine the curricular study of tourism careers, hotel careers, we don't see sustainability as a central element. A major problem also is the isolation of tourism in central government, national and regional development policies. Very seldom tourism occupies a key point in the national strategy, in the national development strategy. It remains as an isolated sector handled by a minor ministry, if there is a ministry. And there is neglect or avoidance of tourism in national sustainability strategy, normally by the Ministry of the Environment. Finally, there is insufficient, and this goes in the international field, insufficient cooperation and coordination among international, bilateral, and NGO development assistance agencies. There has been a lot of work done by many international agencies, international NGOs, and bilateral development assistance agencies in support of sustainable tourism. But there is very little coordination amongst them, so there are isolated efforts here and there which don't fall into an overall strategy for assisting particularly developing countries in developing a sustainable tourism industry. The poverty reduction through tourism is still limited to pilot cases by a few governments in Europe and the STEP initiative handled by the World Tourism Organization. Still remains at the pilot case study 8 years after it was launched. At this stage, we should have seen much bigger results in terms of applying the STEP initiative to many countries. Non-continuity of technical assistance and development assistance leading to frustration among recipient countries and host communities. And little involvement of development banks in tourism, and oriented mainly, when they get involved, to large hotel projects without concern for the sustainability impact of these major loans, like the Inter-American Development Bank, the Asian Development Bank, and the African Development Bank. So let me draw a few conclusions. In my view, we need to refocus strategies for tourism development from tourism to sustainable development. In my opinion, we don't need anymore a tourism development plan. We don't need a tourism development strategy. What we need is to include tourism in the sustainable development strategy of a whole country or a region, whichever is the case. We need also to refocus tourism statistics from arrivals to development objectives. We don't need to measure anymore and to concentrate our effort in getting more and more international arrivals in our countries. What we need is to measure the impacts of these arrivals and the impacts of domestic tourist movements in the development objectives that we have. And thirdly, to refocus the objectives of development assistance, which normally get at the stage of outputs. Yes, we supported that country, we gave them a project for $1 million and we did the job. But we don't measure the impacts of the job. So moving from output to real impact should be the purpose of development assistance. In other words, we need to include tourism in the global development agenda, and sadly, we don't see in the forthcoming Rio+20 summit in a few days, we don't see tourism as a main subject in the agenda, but let's hope that the side events and the results of this conference here will shed some light for better progress. Thank you very much.